Okay, welcome. Today we're going to explore the yin side of energy through a yin yoga practice. But we'll start with sitting. So finding a comfortable sitting position, either sitting cross-legged or sitting on your heels. Take a moment to snuggle. And if sitting cross-legged should bother one knee, try bringing that foot in first. If that doesn't work, put some support under the knee, padding or folded blanket. And as you snuggle, feel yourself nice and solid. From the floor, rebound through your core, allowing the heart to open, and the shoulders floating back and down. As always, the hands can relax either onto your thighs or folded into your lap. The chin in slightly, just so the ears are above the shoulders. And the eyes either closed or cast down on the floor in front of you. Take a few moments to arrive. Noticing your breath. Notice what happens as you happen to breathe. There's no need to change the breath. Just allow it to be whatever it needs to be. But notice it. What does it feel like to breathe in? What does it feel like to breathe out? When your mind wanders, just come back to the breath that's happening right now. Just a few more breaths. And before coming out of the sitting, take a moment to remind yourself why you're here. What do you intend by doing a practice today? You can open your eyes. Lean back to release the legs. And shake the legs out a little bit. As always, you can help to build blood flow back by massaging the knees, circling the ankles. As promised, today we're going to explore the inside of energy. But we'll do that through the postures. We're going to start with a shoelace posture. Shoelace is simply crossing one leg over top the other. So you can start by bringing the right foot as the bottom foot towards the opposite hip, then bring the left foot over across towards the opposite hip. Some people get kind of stuck here. So if you get stuck, you can lift up, do a little wiggle, and then sit back down between the feet. Some caveats here. If the bottom leg doesn't like this, you feel any torquing or twisting in the bottom leg, do the half shoelace. Have that bottom leg straight. You get a nice bonus hamstring stretch here, and you can still work into the top hip. If it's the top hip that doesn't like it, couple of options. You can bring the foot more forward. Generally, when there's more flexion in the hip socket, there's more room for external rotation. Another option is to put some support between the legs. Many beginners or people who are not so flexible, the track 1 students, may sit on a cushion but just rotate it 90 or 45 degrees so you can have a nice line for both legs. But once you've found that position, we can just stay here. Sitting up nice and tall, just allowing the hips to kind of marinate in the juices here. Remembering the 3 principles of Yin Yoga. The first principle is just come to a place where you feel sensation, our first edge. Once you're at that edge, we become still. And the third principle is time. We stay here for a while to allow the stresses to soak into the deeper tissues. If the edge should recede, if you find as you stay here that there's really not so much sensation anymore, you can maybe go a bit deeper by walking the hands forward. At this point, it may be a little bit awkward to stay propped up here, so you can use a bolster. Some people like to rest their chest onto a bolster. And when the muscles feel support, they can relax. Some people may like to just rest their head into their hands. So come to the place where it's doable. There's a challenge, but it's not too much. Eventually, the track 3 students may go all the way down, chest to the thighs, and just relax here. And again, as you increase the flexion in the hip socket, there's more room for external rotation. So even some beginners find that as they flex forward in the shoelace, it allows them to go a bit more deeply into the external rotation. But make sure there's nothing in the knees. Remember, there are no knee openers in yoga. This is designed for the hips. And I invite you to close your eyes and begin to interiorize your awareness. Notice what you're feeling here. Now, at one level, our theme today is an energetic theme. And there's 2 things we do energetically in any yoga practice, yin or yang. The first thing we do is we turn on the tap. We stimulate energy to flow. The second thing we do is we remove blockages, impediments to the flow of energy. It's a little bit analogous to, suppose you decided to go to India for a year to live in an ashram, and you just left your house behind. And after a year, you're enlightened, you come home, and you notice that the grass in the backyard is now about 4 feet tall. So you get out your scythe and you mindfully cut the lawn, but then you have to water it. So you turn on the tap, but there's no water flowing through the hose. What you'd have to do to that hose is some yoga. You'd take the hose and you'd bend it back and forth and move it around, and that will release the blockages. So we're turning on the tap and we're removing the impediments. And that's what we do in our yoga practice. Through the stresses, through the feelings that you have, that's turning on the tap, that's stimulating energy to flow. But we're also removing the blockages that get in the way of the energy flow. And in yoga, there's a particular word in Sanskrit, in India, for these blockages. They're called gruntis. And you can tell from the sound of that word, you don't want gruntis. So in our yoga practice, we help to remove the gruntis, the blockages. So we're here for about another 3 breaths. And again, just notice what you're feeling here. If you're folding forward, use your inhale to come up. Pause here for a moment. And then slowly we're going to take the top leg and we're going to move it behind us, preparing us to come into a version of a pigeon, but in Yin Yoga we call it the swan. Don't be in a hurry to go here. Just take a moment to release that back leg. Just enjoy that rebound quality here. And that gives us time to decide what we're going to do about this front knee. If you know you have knee issues, and the knee doesn't like a pose like pigeon pose, bring the heel right underneath you, and then centering your hips, you can sit on the heel. The first stage of the pigeon is going to be a back bend, or the swan, so you can lift your chest up nice and high. On the other hand, if you know your knee's okay, you can bring that foot more forward. Flexing the foot may help to stabilize the knee a bit, and then you can center the hips. So you're coming into, again, the proud pigeon. If that's not going to work at all, then just bring that left foot back forward again and rest the right ankle on top of the leg. And you can still get your back bend here with the arms behind you. You can lift your chest up. If you have no neck issues, you can drop the head back. So this is another option for any time we do a hip work, whether it's shoelace or swan. We do the sitting swan. But if the leg's okay, let's just keep staying in the proud swan for a moment. Now, track 1, beginners, you can have the hands out in front of you, or you can have hands on blocks if you need to. Track 2, students who want a bit more juice can bring the hands beside the hips. In track 3, very flexible students can interlace the fingers. Now this is a fairly yang posture. We're using our upper back muscles to stay here. And since the upper body's in yang mode, we're not going to stay here too long. But we want to get the sense that the lower body is very relaxed, very much in a yin mode. The targeted areas here, the outside of the front hip and the top of the back leg. So as long as you're feeling something in those two areas, you're getting the pose. The knee is not a targeted area here. So if you're getting this in the knee, again, modify or adjust or do a different pose. Now we're going to slowly transition to the sleeping swan. And we do this in stages. Walk your hands forward, but then snuggle back. If you come down too quickly, all the weight goes into that front knee. So take a moment to walk forward, but snuggle back. Try to keep the sensation in the outside of that front hip. Maybe you can come onto your elbows. Some people can go all the way down. But some people might need to rest their chest onto a bolster. And this may be the appropriate edge for them. This is a very yin-like pose. The pose will do the work. We just have to find that edge where we can relax. And once you are down, again, we still have the targeted areas of the outside of the hip and a little bit of the top of the back thigh. So if you're not feeling it there, you may need to find it. Maybe you have to walk your chest away from the front knee or move the knee a little bit more to the side. So try to be the place where you're feeling some sensation there. And let's just become still. We'll marinate in the swan for a few moments. As we do that, we can also investigate a little bit more closely the concepts of energy. As mentioned, there's two things we do energetically in our yoga practice. We turn on the tap and we remove the blockages. But there's 4 ways we can turn on the tap. And this is according to the Taoist, the traditional Chinese medicine view. The first way is through acupuncture, where we put needles in certain places in the body. Now, I'm not licensed to stick you with needles, and you're not physically here. I can't touch you anyway. So we're not going to do that. But the second way is called acupressure, through creating a stress along certain lines of energy called meridians. We can actually create or stimulate energy to flow. We turn on the tap. The third way is by noticing sensations, bringing your awareness to where you're feeling this. And this is an experiment you can do on your own. If you just really concentrate on the tip of your thumb for a minute, the tip of the thumb will become measurably warmer. As you focus on one area of the body, the blood vessels dilate. More energy can flow to that region. So focusing on where the sensations are can help to stimulate energy flow. So let's stay here for one more breath. And slowly walking your hands back up. While we're visiting the swan, it's always nice to visit the screaming swan. You bring the outside hand inside the front leg, bend the back leg, and reach back and find yourself. That's what yoga is all about. But we're just trying to get a nice feeling on the top of the quadricep. Track 2, students may have to pull the foot in a bit more. Track 3, you can push down on the heel. Just a little juice here. And then you release. And we're going to come back to sitting and doing the other side of the shoelace. But if you need a bit more of a break, you can stretch the legs out, you can shake out the legs or do the windshield wipers, which is an internal rotation after all the external rotations we've been doing. So take as long as you feel you need in these counter poses. When you're ready, the other side, we'll start by bringing the left foot underneath us and the right foot over top. So make sure you are doing the other side. You don't want to do the same side twice. Again, options, you can sit up on a cushion. You can lift the hips up, do a little snuggle. And as always, we're not symmetric. So if the bottom knee here is the knee that complains, again, Do the half shoelace. Again, you'll get that nice bonus hamstring stretch, and we'll still be working the outside of the top hip. If the top knee complains, bring that foot a bit more forward, or put some padding or support between the two legs. Otherwise, we'll just sit here and let the energies settle. If you feel like you don't get much sensation here, you can start to fold forward. Remembering, as we flex more, there's more room for the bones to externally rotate. So for some people, they really only feel this when they come forward. Then they get that nice tugging in the back of the hips as well. So come to the place where you're at your edge. And become still. We'll hold it for time. Just realizing the sensations you're feeling are actually stimulating energy to flow. That's the active pressure. As you pay attention to that, you feel it, you notice it, you're enhancing the energy flow there. The fourth way that we enhance energy flow is with the breath. All the ancient cultures, the word for breath was synonymous with the word for life. In Latin, the word for breath is spiritus. When your breath enters you, your spirit enters you. Inspiration, expiration, these are all dealing with breath and life force. In Greek, it was pneuma. In India, we call it prana. In China, it's called chi. So breath is life force. And we can enhance energy to flow by breathing into the areas of sensation. Now this is a little strange to think about because you don't have lungs in your hips. But the whole body is interconnected. It's like we have a three-dimensional fascial body stocking underneath. And whatever we do to one part of the body, we're creating stresses and tugging in other parts of the body. So if you really pay attention, as you breathe in, as your chest rises, as the diaphragm descends, there's sensation, there's a stress that's created throughout the body. And so if you can attend to what it feels like when you breathe in the area that we're targeting, through the hips, then you're again enhancing the flow of energy. So again, there's 4 ways to stimulate energy. Acupuncture, which we don't do, acupressure, directed awareness, and the breath. So for the last couple of minutes here, I invite you to close your eyes. Again, feel the targeted areas, feel your hips. And if you're folding forward, also feel the lower back through the buttocks. Really notice those sensations, but also notice what happens in that area as you happen to breathe. Notice how the sensations change with the in-breath and with the out-breath. When your mind wanders, which it will, just come back to sensation. Come back to the effects of the breath on the sensation. About 3 more breaths. If you're folding forward, use your next inhale to come up. Remember, we always want to come out of the poses slowly. We have created a fragility in these deep tissues. So we move slowly, gently. We're going to bring that top leg all the way behind us. You can lean to the left and just pause here. Enjoy that echo, the rebound of that pose. We will go into swan next, but there's no hurry to come into this pose, so pause here as long as you need. If you need more of a counter pose, you can just pause here longer. Do a down dog or some other movement. And then we're going to check on how this front knee feels. We're not symmetric, so maybe this is your funky knee. If you know this knee is a problem, bring that foot right underneath you so you're sitting on the heel. And that way you can still get the back bend. If that's not going to work, swing the back leg forward. You can do the sitting swan version. You're resting the ankle onto the knee and adding a bit of a back bend here. If the knee is okay, flex the foot, bring the foot more forward. And by flexing the foot, you kind of stiffen all the fascia around the knee, and then you can slide the back knee further away. And you can usually do that a couple of times. Slide that back knee quite far away. If you're listing a little bit to the side, you can always put some support underneath the buttock here, or folded up blanket. If the back knee complains about this, you can also put the support underneath the shin. So the kneecap's actually floating. It's not on the floor at all. Some people prefer to have the knee bent, and that tends to slide the kneecap away from the floor. So find the place where this is going to work for you. The first stage, again, is the proud swan. It's the back bend. So you're lifting the chest up, hands can be on blocks. Track 2, hands can be beside the hips, makes it juicier. Track 3, hands behind your back. Just maybe 2 or 3 breaths. You can use your back muscles to lift you up, but see if you can relax through the hips and the legs. Even here you can notice the effects of the breath on the sensation. And slowly we're going to take it to the sleeping swan. Walk the hands forward, snuggle back. Again, try to keep the stress into the outside of that front hip. Snuggle back, come forward. Maybe you can come onto your elbows. If you need to, you can rest your head in your hands, or again, you can use a bolster to rest your chest on. Some people can come right down. But if you're losing the sensation here, try to find it. Do whatever adjustments you need to do. Maybe coming away from the front leg. Maybe coming over the front leg more. And again, if this isn't working at all, you can do the reclining swan, where you take this, sometimes called eye of the needle pose, and you just lay all the way down. Oops. Maybe hugging the knee here. Find the place where you're feeling something. And then again, become still, noticing the sensations. And when we talk about energy, it's a bit mysterious. What do we really mean by energy? I remember the first time I was introduced to energy in a yoga context by a yoga teacher named Rainbow Star Child. And she kept telling me to feel the prana flowing through my nadis and chanting Om. And I thought I was being asked to join a cult. So I got out of there as quickly as I could. But many, many years later, when I was introduced to energy medicine from a Western perspective, I started to realize what she was trying to get me to experience. I just wasn't mentally ready for it yet. There are 3 types of energies that we do work with. The first 2 are very obvious, very gross. There's the energy of transportation. This is the energy we use in the body to move things around. The energy of transportation moves our limbs and moves the blood through the blood vessels, moves our food through the digestive tract. It's a very large source of energy. As is the energy of transformation. This is the energy that changes substance from one thing to another. As we digest our food, we transform it from the raw food into nutrients. Let's slowly start to come up. Again, just a brief visit to the screaming swan. So the outside hand inside the front knee, bend the back leg. Again, just find yourself. If this is feeling the top of the thigh, just stay there. If you need a bit more juice, you can pull the heel towards you. Or eventually, the heel and the buttock meet. Just for a few breaths, just so you feel some sensation in the quadriceps. And if you're feeling at the top of the thigh, just know this is your spleen and stomach meridian. We'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. Slowly release. And for a nice counter pose here, we can step back to down dog. Tuck your back toes under, plant your front paws, and with a song in your heart, step back to oh my God dog. You can take your dog for a little walk. If you're not a dog lover, you can just lie down, roll onto your back. But you're welcome to linger in the dog for as long as you like. It is a bit yang-like, so we won't stay here too long. And when you're ready, just come down onto your stomach and roll onto your back. Pause here for a moment and close your eyes. Again, just feel the echo of the previous postures, allowing the energies to settle. We have one more lovely pose for working with the hips. It's called Happy Baby. So we begin by just hugging the knees into the chest. If you want, while you're here, you can circle the knees a little bit, massage the lower back. And then when you're ready, reach between the legs, grab the insides of the soles of the feet, and try to bring the knees to the floor. Trying to keep the hips down and the feet above the knees. Now, a lot of people that can't quite do this, they can just grab whatever they can grab, the ankles, even just the back of the thighs. Or you can do this against a wall, just have your feet supported by the wall. Our target area here, again, is the hips. So we just want to get to the point where we can feel this. There used to be a time when you could do this, and something happened, and you grew up. So we're not trying to imitate an actual baby, but we can imitate the happy part. So just enjoy this sensation. In track 1, beginners, people who are naturally not so flexible, we're going to have an off-ramp in about 20 seconds. The off-ramp will be to take this into a reclining butterfly. But the track 2 and 3 students, you can hang out here in the happy baby for a little bit longer. But as always, notice what you're feeling here. So for track 1, one more breath. And the track 2 and 3 students stay here, but track 1, come to the reclining butterfly, bring the soles of the feet together, bring the feet to the floor, and just allow the thighs to separate. If this feels like there's too much stress in the knees, you can support the thighs with some blocks or bolsters. If you don't have blocks or bolsters, even just using your fists sometimes might be enough to support. Now, this is not necessarily an easier pose. You're still going to get a lot of sensation through the inner groins. And from a Taoist perspective, this is stimulating the kidney and liver meridians. Track 2 and 3, your off-ramp's coming in about 40 seconds. So you can just stay in the happy baby. Track 3, because you're so flexible, you can start to straighten the legs more and more until the feet touch the floor on either side of your ears. Yeah, right, like that's going to happen. Now you just work towards that. Now you don't have to pull in the happy baby, just let the weight of your arms do the work here. Again, you can close your eyes and climb inside the experience. But 2 more breaths. And slowly, everyone comes to the reclining butterfly. Soles of the feet to the floor, feet together. If this is easy, move the feet closer towards you. If this is too much, move the feet further away. Again, you can support the legs if you need to. Or you can just rest your hands on the chest or the belly, closing your eyes. Notice what you're feeling. The 2 forms of energy that I already mentioned, the energy of transportation and the energy of transformation, are fairly gross levels of energy. It takes a lot of energy to move things around, or to cook things, or to turn things into something else. The 3rd form of energy is subtle, very hard to detect. And it's this reason that it took a long time for Western science to really recognize that this energy was being used. And it's the energy of communication. We use all three forms of energy in living organisms. And yoga can help stimulate all three forms of energy. But the energy of communication is the subtlest form. It's analogous to the difference between a cell phone and an oven. Let's suppose you decided for Thanksgiving you're going to cook a turkey, but you don't know how hot to set the oven. So you phone up your mother. Mothers always know these things. And of course, being a yogi, it's a tofu turkey. So you call up mom. She says 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So you turn on the oven, 350 degrees. Now the oven uses a lot of energy, measured in thousands of watts of power. But the cell phone, it used a thousandth of a watt, a milliwatt. The oven was using the energy of transformation. The cell phone was using the energy of communication. The energy of transformation is 1,000,000 times stronger. But without that communication, nothing happens. So let's bring the legs together. You can use your hands like closing a book. Bring the knees together. Pause there, maybe walk the feet a little bit away from each other. And so far we've been doing a lot of external rotation in the hips. So now we'll switch to more internal rotation. With a bit of windshield wipers, have your feet as wide as the mat and just drop your knees from side to side. Focusing on the knee that comes down the midline, that's internally rotating. If this is easy, you can walk the feet further out. And the next time your right knee is down the midline, just stay there. Let the left knee fall out to the side. Just pausing, making sure there's no pain in the knee. If there's pain in the knee, you may need to support the knee, put a block or the other foot underneath it. We won't be here too long, just a little internal rotation into the right hip. And we'll switch sides. So bring the left knee in. Again, if the knee doesn't like it, lift the knee a bit higher, put some padding or support there. And then bring both legs back up again. We'll finish with a lovely twist for the spine, but we'll continue to internally rotate the legs. Bringing the right leg over top the left. Now some people are very internally rotated. They can tuck the calf, the toe under the calf. If you can't do that, just kind of fake it. And then the right leg's on top. We're going to drop both legs to the left. And you can rock back and forth a few times. So we have an internal rotation in the hips, but we're twisting through the spine. If the neck's okay, you can turn your head to look away from the knees. If the knees are floating, you can put your hand on top of the knees, or you can support the knees with a bolster or a block. Again, when the bones feel support, the muscles can relax. The point of the edge is just to be where there's something. Doesn't have to be too much. We're going to let this soak in for a bit now. You can extend the right arm, but if that creates any tingling feeling, it's better to lower the arm or just rest the hand on the rib cage. Some students prefer to clasp the elbows over their head. So find the place where there's a challenge, but it's not too much. Then closing your eyes, just marinate here for a while. Again, as we hold here, pay attention to the sensations. These feelings of stress that you're creating, are actual signals all on their own. They're forms of communication. In the 1800s, this was noticed. It was called mechanotransduction. When you stress the cells, it stimulates them to change, to activate, to turn on. And wherever you're feeling the stress, through the rib cage, the outside of the hip, maybe through the shoulders and the neck, those cells that exist in those areas are actually receiving communication. And there's many different forms of communication. There's the physical tugging that we do to the tissues, but also there's a form of electricity that we generate through a process called piezoelectricity. This is a fancy Greek word. Piezein means pressure. It's an electricity that is generated through pressure. And you've all seen this. The little kids who have the sneakers, the runners that light up when they walk. There's no battery charging those LEDs. It's just when they take a step, they're bending a little piece of metal. And through that stress on the metal, it creates an electric current. It turns out our body is also like that. We're like liquid crystals, and when we move, when we breathe, when we stress or compress our tissues, we're stimulating energy to flow. Now, energy flows very well through water-filled spaces. Water with dissolved salts is a very good conductor of electrical energies. And in our muscles, in between the muscles, we have fascial linings. Our muscles are like tubes within tubes within tubes. And these tubes are made of fascia, lubricated, wet, moist. If we map the traditional Chinese meridian lines, the stomach and spleen through the top of the thigh, or the liver, kidney lines through the inner groins, they seem to correspond very closely to the boundary between muscle groups, where the fascial bags separate one muscle from the other. And so it's through these fascial boundaries that we speculate the energy that we stimulate through our stresses, through the tissues, flows. In this way, the Taoist concept of qi is very much like organizational energy. It's a form of communication. It sends signals generated in one area of the body to distant areas far away. We're going to be here in this twisted root position for another minute. So I invite you to see if you can feel the stress of the pose, but also any energetic qualities to it. So 3 more breaths here. And slowly, with awareness, use your inhale to come up. Take a moment to unwrap your roots and just pause here for a moment. Allow the knees to fall in, the feet apart. Notice how this feels. If If your legs are craving a bit more release, you can just straighten the legs for a moment. Some students prefer a little bit of yang movement, so again you can do the windshield wipers, or hug the knees, circle the knees. Whatever movement feels organic and natural, you can just spontaneously erupt into those type of movements. We don't need to rush to do the other side. But when you feel like you're ready for the other side, we can bring the opposite knee, so the left knee on top this time. Again, if you're very internally rotated, you can tuck the toe into the calf. If that's not going to happen, don't worry about it. Now the left knee's on top. You can drop both knees over to the right. Again, if the knees don't quite make it to the floor, you can support the knees with a block or a bolster. If you like, you can turn your head, look away from the knees, maybe extend that arm. But again, if extending that arm creates any tingling, lower the arm or just rest the hand on the rib cage. Again, some students prefer to clasp the elbows over their head. With the elbows over the head, sometimes that gives a nice stimulation through the upper arms, through the shoulder area, which may also stimulate energy flow through the heart and lung meridians. If turning your head to the side creates any lightheadedness or dizziness, don't turn your head. I invite you to close your eyes. And again, interiorize your awareness here. Notice the sensations. And notice the effects of the breath. So again, to summarize, there's two things we do energetically in our yoga practice. We turn on the tap, we stimulate energy to flow, and we remove blockages, the grunties. And there's 4 ways we could stimulate energy to flow. Acupuncture, that's the one way we don't use. Acupressure, that's what we do. The pose itself is creating the stresses that stimulate energy to flow. But then we can enhance that by drawing our awareness to the sensations, the outside of the hip, along the spine, maybe through the shoulders. Then we notice the effects of the breath in the targeted areas. By doing this, we stimulate communication energy. Energy that, at a deep cellular level, stimulates healing, wholeness, strength. So you really do get this feeling that you're marinating in the juiciness of this pose. Doing less and less, it is yin-like, but we're allowing the energy to flow. And we'll be quieter for most of the rest of this pose to give you a chance to really sense this, feel it. But when your mind wanders, just come back to sensation. Noticing what happens as you happen to breathe. One more minute here. So keep coming back to the sensations, to the effect of the breath. And your last 3 breaths here. And slowly with awareness, bring the legs back to center, releasing, and then pausing. Again, the knees can fall in, the feet slightly apart. Or moving in whatever way feels appropriate, organic. And then with the least amount of energy, prepare yourself for final Shavasana, relaxation. As you prepare for relaxation, you might want to put on extra layers, put on socks, grab a blanket or a sweater. Make sure you stay warm. Take off anything that's tight or binding. So take off watches, glasses, let your hair down. But also as an experiment, take off anything metallic that makes a complete circle around the body. Metal circles can interfere with the flow of electrical and magnetic fields and energies. According to the Taoists, the worst metal circle you can wear is a belly button ring. You'd be short-circuiting the gate of life. So sorry, ladies. So experiment, take those metal circles off, whether it's a ring or a bracelet or necklace, and just see if that changes your experience of your yoga practice and your Shavasana. If you have a bolster handy, you might place it under the back of your thighs with the knees slightly bent, the hips can relax, and that takes stress out of the lower back. Take a moment to release here. We'll do a slightly longer Shavasana to really help with the flow of energy. And we mentioned that the Indians had a term for these blockages called grunties. The Taoists also noticed that blockages occur. And in the Taoist map, the blockages tend to occur in the joints. When the joints are damaged, the energy can't flow through the meridians to get to the pertaining organs. And organ health is health. If your fairy godmother ever appears to you and grants you a wish, either long hamstrings or a healthy liver, take the liver. So as we deepen into relaxation, we'll deliberately relax the joints. And start by noticing your toes. Just feel your toes relaxing. Release your toes. And draw awareness along the arches of your feet to the ankles. Feel your feet and your ankles release tension. Relaxing. And guide your awareness along the shin bones to the knees. A very big joint here. Feel your knees releasing, softening, and opening. Relax your knees. In your mind's eye now, trace the path of your femur, your thigh bone, into the hip socket, the deepest joint in the body. Relax the hips. Feel this area soften, release its tensions. Your hips relax. Become aware of your sacrum, releasing into the earth now. Relaxing the sacroiliac joints. And feel the lower spine, the lumbar. Each vertebra releasing and relaxing, coming into its proper alignment with its neighbor. Awareness moves along the spine to the middle back, to the upper back, relaxing all the joints along the thoracic spine, even the ribs themselves, release. Continue up through the cervical spine, the neck. Feel your neck relaxing, letting go of tension. Right up to the base of your skull. Let this also release. Relax your head into the earth. Each joint in your spine aligned, relaxed, open. And become aware of your shoulders. Relax your shoulders. Keep your awareness there for another moment. Relax the shoulders. Your arms heavy. You can feel your elbows and your wrists releasing tension. Softening the base of your thumb. Aware of the space around each finger. And that quality of energy in your palms. Just relax your hands. Your arms and your hands heavy, warm, relaxed. Now relax the hinge of your jaw, allowing your teeth to part slightly. Feel all your facial muscles softening as you deepen into a state of total release. Notice how good this feels. Now, through your practice today, you stimulated energy to flow through the body, sending healing signals to every cell. And at this deep level, beneath conscious awareness, you are healing. You are becoming healthier, younger, whole, stronger. But consciously notice the stillness, notice the peace that's been growing within you. Stay with this sense of joy. Enjoy this. And while unconsciously, beneath any memory, this healing will continue throughout the days to come. All you'll remember is this feeling of joy, of peace. So enjoy being relaxed. And throughout the days to come, enjoy being. Slowly bring your awareness back to your breath. Allow your breath to lengthen a bit, to deepen. And bring some movement to your fingers, to your toes. And wiggle your nose, do a little face yoga. Circle your ankles and your wrists. Circling in both directions. And we'll reawaken with a big stretching yawn. So stretch the arms overhead. You can interlace the fingers, turn the palms away. Take a deep inhale. And then stretch and yawn and reach and push and pull. And as you release, roll to your left side. Use your bottom arm as a pillow. You can bend your knees. Pause there for a moment. Feel the energy settle once again. And then slowly roll up to sitting. Thank you for sharing the practice, enjoying the yin side of energy.